are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Dynasty Football Podcast, everybody. I am Kate Magdziuk. You could follow me on Twitter at FFBallBlast. And as always, I am joined by my awesome co-host, Marcus Mosher. You could follow him on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Give the show a follow. Subscribe on YouTube. Never miss a single opportunity where we give out some Dynasty advice. We break down your teams. Right now, we're doing all of the team reviews and breaking down what you need to know from the 2021 seasons and moving forward, how we can use that information to build a championship roster. But I don't know if anybody wants to talk about Dynasty League football. We're just in mourning right now, Marcus, because we were robbed. There was a robbery last night, and I called the cops, but nobody responded. I was robbed of perhaps the greatest comeback drive of all time because of stupid NFL overtime rules. What a showing. This was the best divisional round ever.
It was. I mean, all four games were incredible. But man, after last night's game, the Chiefs were, that was just a great way for the Chiefs to come back and win. But you just feel for Buffalo fans, right? Because the Bills played so well in that game. They were clearly a team that could win the Super Bowl, and to lose the game like that is so tough. I feel so bad for them, Kate.
But to lose that game because of overtime rules. What are we doing?
I know.
What are we doing?
We got to change that. Good. Can we give Buffalo fans some positives to take away from this game?
Josh Allen.
That's a big one. You have a super duper franchise quarterback that goes toe to toe with Mahomes and maybe even outplayed Patrick Mahomes on the road. That's pretty nice, right? And then you have a receiver, Gabriel Davis, who did something only one other receiver has done in the last 50 years, and that's go for 200 yards and 4 touchdowns in a single game. The other receiver, Jerry Rice. Not bad company to have.
And became the first guy to do it in the postseason too, which it just incredible. You saw history being made, but just you've got to be so thrilled for Gabriel Davis because he has been a guy that we've seen very big splash play potential, but necessarily it hasn't come on a very consistent basis. But he's become a go-to guy over the last, I would say, in the postseason. He's been just one of the most integral parts of their postseason run. And he's only in his second year as a wide receiver. It's incredible.
I mean, this weekend was so crazy, Kate. We had Tom Brady coming back from a 27-3 deficit in the second half and tying that game up, thinking they're going to overtime. We had Aaron Rodgers potentially playing the last game ever in Green Bay or in Lambeau, right? And then we had Joe Burrow get sacked 9 times and still find a way to beat the Titans. I mean, I don't know. That was the best weekend of football I think I've ever seen.
Yep, I'm in complete agreement. And we just saw not even there are some times where you'll see like a high scoring affair, but it's not necessarily quality football.
A well played game. Yep.
Yeah, we saw a lot of quality football this weekend. It gives you a lot of hope because obviously, we just saw a turning of the page in NFL. In terms of NFL era, we saw a lot of old quarterbacks take their retirement. Obviously, Tom Brady doesn't give a crap about turning the page, but
nope.
I think this was a really nice look into the future of the NFL and just a lot of hope here that we've got a lot of fantastic, talented young quarterbacks. But man, they seem to be rich on talented young quarterbacks in the AFC. We need to sprinkle some love to the NFC.
What do you mean? We got Jimmy G. What are you talking about, Kate?
He is a stud. He's a stud.
Yeah, just a fantastic divisional round of the playoffs. I mean, so many different takeaways. I don't even know where to start, but we're going to do some team reviews. Okay. We're going to continue our segment. We've got the Broncos and the Seahawks today. Two teams that kind of had some weird years and maybe are looking to change quarterbacks going into the 2022 offseason. Hey, maybe they just switch quarterbacks. That would be very interesting. But before we get to those previews, that'd be interesting. I should tell you guys about Built Bar. It's the new year, so that means New Year's resolutions. If yours is about getting fit or eating healthier, make sure you include Built Bar into your plan. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes just like a candy bar, or maybe even better than a candy bar. Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate, and most Built Bars only contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and 4 net carbs, but 17 grams of protein. And there's so many great flavors to choose from: coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, raspberry, cookies and cream, salted caramel, mint brownie, and so many more. In fact, Built is always coming up with new limited time flavors, so check out Built.com often to see what's new. Go to Built.com and use promo code LOCK15, and you'll get 15% off your next order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right, let's talk about the Broncos 2021 season. Just felt like another year where they were in limbo because of the quarterback situation, right? Teddy Bridgewater was the starter. They started at 0-3. He got hurt. Drew Lock came in and did what Drew Lock does. Is this team really just a quarterback away, Kate?
I think they kind of are. I will say I thought it was a little crass of Vic Fangio to come out and say it. But I guess it's fair. It's 100% fair, because I do think that just across the line, they played really good football this year outside of the quarterback position, even with the loss of Von Miller, traded away to the Rams. I was worried about how that might affect this defense, and Bradley Chubb. Does the loss of Von Miller affect him and his ability to get pressure? Like, it doesn't seem like the defense was shaken up by that loss whatsoever. You have a ton of huge playmakers on both sides of the ball. I do think that if you had a better and more high quality quarterback, that they might be moving the ball a lot more. Because, I mean, Marcus, the weapons that they have, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Judy, even Tim Patrick was probably their best wide receiver this year.
Yep.
There's just a lot of talent everywhere except under center.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see what Denver does. Do they go with a guy that's maybe a slight upgrade over Teddy and continue to build their defense with the rest of their assets, or do they draft a quarterback? They're going to be picking inside the top, I believe, the top 12. Or do they go out and try to get a big fish? Do they go after Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson or somebody like that? We'll see.
I've got the perfect fit, actually.
Go ahead.
Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins would be the best quarterback for Denver, period. Not going to be as flashy as an Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, but he can deliver the ball. He can not lose you a game. I'm just saying, I would love to see Kirk Cousins head to Denver. I think that would be the best opportunity for fantasy success across the board, and my fingers are crossed.
Yeah, see, I think they could do something like Kirk Cousins without having to give up, one of their top 100 picks, and then you just continue to rebuild the defense. I think that does make some sense, but I know Bronco fans probably don't want to hear that. But Kirk Cousins is good enough.
He's a quality quarterback.
Right.
Leave him alone.
And more importantly for us, he can absolutely get the ball to the weapons, right? I mean, we saw Justin Jefferson just absolutely take off the last couple of years. We saw Adam Thielen score 1 million touchdowns. So if you're wanting somebody to help your fantasy, players, I think Cousins makes a lot of sense. All right. Most valuable dynasty asset from this team this season.
I mean, Javonte Williams, Marcus. Yep. We're not gonna play around with this one. I could get cute and creative and say that Tim Patrick was a huge value here. No, it's Javonte Williams. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I actually kind of feel bad, because on any other team, we'd be talking about Melvin Gordon as a tremendous value. But it didn't work out here for Melvin Gordon in terms of where he ended up, but Javonte Williams as a rookie, second in missed forced tackles, just was an absolute beast. Eighth in yards after contact. But I mean, the pretty miraculous thing is that he ranked 19th in rushing attempts. So like he's being incredibly efficient with his plays every single time he touches the ball. I mean, what else do you make of this situation? Do you think that do you think Melvin Gordon returns? Because I think that is the biggest thing hinging Javonte Williams' dynasty value. And that is probably one of the only thing keeping him out of like a top 5 value for me.
Yeah, I do think he returns. And I mean, Gordon was good this year for the Broncos. And I just don't see many other situations where he leaves and instantly becomes the lead back, right? So he's probably going to stay in Denver, and it's going to be annoying for us Javonte Williams fantasy owners because he's a guy that probably could handle 22, 24 touches a game. Probably just not going to get it with Gordon being back this year. Now, maybe 2023, 2024, but I think Gordon will be back.
Yeah, I think that would be just the smartest decision for the Broncos. I think that Melvin Gordon did too many good things for their actual NFL team, despite the fact that he was a nuisance to fantasy managers. I'm expecting him back.
All right, most disappointing fantasy asset.
It's got to be Noah Fant. Noah Fant. I'm very excited for Noah Fant. I think this could be a great buy low opportunity because we know his upside. But overall, I mean, Noah Fant really didn't do anything that we wanted him to do in terms of his fantasy production. 2 games of 90 plus receiving yards and a touchdown, but outside of those games, he lost you a lot of weeks. I mean, 5 games on the season with 20 or fewer receiving yards, and he didn't like hurt for targets throughout the season. Saw 90 total targets on the year. Just didn't do a ton with them. Now, I project this to flip around. We know he's a great athlete. We saw what he was able to do at Iowa, but get him a capable quarterback, and I think his draft stock shoots back up in dynasty leagues. But for the time being, he's not a usable fantasy asset, despite the fact that like he's still not he's not performing as like a tight end 3. He's still performing as like tight end 1, tight end 2, which is kind of crazy. But I mean, that just shows you how low the bar is for the tight end position.
I get it. But that's not my answer, Kate. It's not.
Really?
It's gotta be Jerry Judy, right? It has to be.
I thought you were going to say Cortland Sutton.
No.
That's how wild.
I know.
Because your answer could be any of these guys.
Jerry Judy, in his last 17 games. So I know he missed 6 games this year with a high ankle injury. But dating back to 2020, his last 17 games, 56 receptions for 700 yards and 1 touchdown, averaging 45 receiving yards per game. Kate, this season, he averaged, I'm looking at it now, 46 yards per game. Here are some receivers that averaged more yards per game than Jerry Judy. Kendrick Bourne, Van Jefferson, Jarvis Landry, Dalton Schultz, TJ Hawkinson, Jacoby Myers, Devontae Parker, AJ Brown, Corey Davis, Russell Gage, Chase Claypool. I mean, like, there was just a lot of guys that were better than him when he played. And I know that they spent a top 15 pick on him, but we just haven't seen that special player yet. Like, I believe he has 1 game of 100 yards in his career, 1 game. And is it really just a quarterback thing? Like, if Aaron Rodgers comes, is all of a sudden, is he going to be a wide receiver 1? I don't know. I'm just worried about Jerry Judy.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is just kind of crazy that we can have this discussion because, you mentioned the draft capital in terms of gauging your disappointment for Jerry Judy, but we could go to Cortland Sutton and say, well, they just gave him this big contract, 4 years, $60.8 million. And week 9 on, he only had 1 single game where he had more than 35 receiving yards, 0 touchdowns in that span. His 16-game pace week 9 on was 372 receiving yards. Wow. Is this a buy moment for either of these guys, though?
I don't know, because I'm looking at Dynasty League football right now. In June of 2021, his ADP was 58.3. Now it's all the way up to 40. What did he do during the 2021 season that makes him jump 18 spots in your Dynasty rankings? Is it just the possibility that Aaron Rodgers could be coming there, or Russell Wilson? That's got to be it, right? Because it's certainly not the production. Maybe it's hard to trade for Jerry Judy right now because Dynasty owners are holding on, hoping that the quarterback situation improves. But I'm not paying top 40, top 50 price for Jerry Judy right now.
Yeah, you're right. The price increase at a time where you didn't really see anything in terms of production is kind of it's a little baffling.
I don't get it. Last one. Any Dynasty buys or Dynasty sells here?
There's one name that I'm not sure the pathway to success is immediately available, but I'm kind of looking at Albert O, who I'm just going to avoid his last name because I screw it up every time, and he deserves better than that from me. It's Albert O, just from here on out. 6'5", 258 pounds. And I actually think, in some of these clutch moments, he actually came up a little bigger than we saw Noah Fant on the season. But when he's been relied upon, we've actually seen him just perform pretty well so far on the field. It's a TBD if Noah Fant were to be injured. I think that Albert O would have a lot of success among all wide receivers, ranked top 10 in yards per route run. Like, again, he's not running a ton of routes, but he's been really efficient with those routes and opportunities that he has had. So, he's a guy that everybody liked coming out of Missouri. I think that, he's got some potential if there's the pathway to success eventually.
All right, let's take a quick break so I can tell you guys about Get Upside. Our listeners are making up to 25 cents for every single gallon of gas every time they fill up. Just download the free Get Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and use promo code Touchdown and get a bonus 25 cents per gallon on your first fill up. That's up to 50 cents cash back. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside. You can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or e-gift card. Just download the free Get Upside app in the App Store and use promo code Touchdown to get up to 50 cents per gallon cash back on your first tank. That is promo code Touchdown. All right, the next team are the Seattle Seahawks, and what a weird year for the Seahawks. Russell Wilson gets hurt. DK Metcalf basically disappears, and then Rashad Penny finally breaks out. Kate, let's start with this. Most valuable Dynasty asset going forward.
You just said it. Rashad Penny for me.
No, it can't be, right?
Okay.
It's still Metcalf, right?
Okay. No. So sorry. I was approaching this as the player with the most value, as in like discount value.
Obviously, from last season. From last season, it probably was Penny, right?
From last season, actually, yeah, it probably was. I think he was probably the only player that got you any consistent production. I mean, DK Metcalf, I've talked extensively about DK Metcalf and my overall disappointment with him. Of course, as soon as I say that, he goes ahead and wins people championships with 6 catches, 63 yards, and 3 touchdowns to close out the season. But I mean, if you were relying on him to actually get you to that championship game, he didn't. Yeah, he was not a factor there. So like I'm kind of off on that. But what about, so if I'm going to table the quote unquote value discussion on Rashad Penny, but what about Tyler Lockett, who is the much more consistent wide receiver on this team overall? Finished 2021 with 1,100 receiving yards. It's his third straight season with 1,000 receiving yards or more. Third straight season with 10 or more or 8 or more touchdowns. I mean, he's just been Mr. Consistent.
Yeah, and in fact, if you look at his total yards, he's been over 1,000 yards in 4 straight seasons, and he's got 36 touchdowns. I mean, he's just about as reliable as it gets. I love having Tyler Lockett on my team. Now, week to week, a little bit more inconsistent than the stats indicate. He'll have some monster games and disappear. But yeah, I think Lockett, considering his price, considering how consistent he is year to year, one of the more valuable receivers in fantasy.
He's been more valuable, I think, to the Seattle Seahawks than most people want to give him credit for. And I mean, in terms of his dynasty value, you can get Tyler Lockett at a much better value than you can get DK Metcalf at this point, and you're getting a pretty comparable, piece.
Most disappointing player has to be DK Metcalf. This is when we can talk about him, right? Because Metcalf, I remember us talking about this, Kate, at the beginning of the year. Like, he was a lot of people's dynasty wide receiver 1, if not wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3. 973 yards this year. The touchdowns were great. He had 12 touchdowns. It's fantastic. But only 75 receptions, averaged under 13 yards a catch. We want somebody whose yardage total is going to be higher, is going to get more targets, and he just didn't have it. Now, is that all Russell Wilson? I don't know. He was actually in some games better with Geno Smith than he was Russell Wilson. I just don't know what the future is here with DK.
And you know what? Like, looking at is it Russell Wilson? To close out the season, weeks 10 on for DK Metcalf was on pace for just 731 receiving yards, which for a player like DK Metcalf, incredibly disappointing. But you did not see that same drop in production with Tyler Lockett. And that's what concerns me. It's not that you don't see the star wide receiver performing with a very injured quarterback, a guy who's not healthy. It's the fact that there were 2 wide receivers on the field right there, and one of them was much more valuable for fantasy managers with that same quarterback. DK Metcalf, the issue for me is just that his price has not been reflected whatsoever in terms of his dynasty value in relation to how disappointing his season was.
Yeah, I agree. Last 22 games, Kate, 22 games. That's a big sample size. 56 yards per game.
That's not good.
That's not a wide receiver 1. That's not the wide receiver 1. That's not a wide receiver 1. And that's what's so concerning. Now, are we going to still rank him up there? Yes, because we know how talented he is. But the production over the last year and a half has not been what you've been hoping for if you've traded a bunch of assets for him.
Yeah, that's not good. A recent Dynasty League football trade, though, I want to give you this because it kind of folds in 2 of our disappointing players from the season. DK Metcalf for CeeDee Lamb straight up. Who would you prefer?
Ooh, that one's tough. I would say probably CeeDee Lamb.
I would probably disagree with you there. But
all right, so give me the.
But that's how close it is.
Yeah. So you make the argument for Metcalf. I'll make the argument for Lamb.
The argument for Metcalf just comes from just the overall upside. I think the ceiling for fantasy football specifically, like I think CeeDee Lamb could be obviously a top wide receiver in this league and for fantasy, but the myriad of weapons there in Dallas, obviously we don't know what will come of Michael Gallup. We assume, I think we're assuming he's out at this point after the injury. I just think that there's more opportunity for DK Metcalf to actually be the star wide receiver here. You've got Tyler Lockett alongside of him. I like the physicality. I like his metrics better. Just his overall size, stamina, speed. CeeDee Lamb, though, I also love. I don't think there's a really great argument for one over the other, but DK Metcalf, I just feel has the higher upside.
I will say this for Lamb, back-to-back seasons of at least 1,000 yards, right? Played with, I think, 6 different starting quarterbacks over the last 2 years, considering Dak missed a lot of time last year. Dak missed a game this year. Only 22 years old. And I just think the quarterback situation is far more stable going forward, right? I mean, Stevie's going to play his entire rookie contract with Dak Prescott. Who knows what's going to happen to DK Metcalf? Like, there's a good chance Russell Wilson's not there, or DK Metcalf leaves in free agency, or they trade him. I mean, I don't think those things are going to happen, but it's just a far less stable situation than what CD is, and that's why I'm behind him.
That's fair. That's fair.
Okay. Any buys or sells here for the Seahawks before we head out?
I mean, I think again, a buy. We got to talk about Rashad Penny. Just absolute stud. Every single time he's gotten the opportunity to play football, he's absolutely shined. To close out the season, just didn't have a single game where he was a disappointment. Maybe week 15 against the Rams, but 4 out of his 5 games as the starter had over 130 rushing yards. Like, that's absolutely stunning. Every time he's had at least 12 rushing, at times he's gotten 100 yards or a touchdown. Like, this guy is, a former first round pick who doesn't have a ton of miles on the tires, despite the fact that he's 25 years old. But even looking at his playing time, despite the fact that he's had limited playing time this season, has 750 rushing yards this year. Like, incredible.
Yep. Yeah, hard to disagree. Rashad Penny is going to be one of the more interesting guys to follow this offseason. I'm kind of curious
free
to see.
Agency, baby. You gotta. I think this is the time to buy, because he could be an RB1, RB2 moving forward, depending on his landing spot. I'm just saying.
I hope he goes back to Seattle. It's the best spot for him, right? Because Alex Collins is a free agent. Who knows about the health of Chris Carson's? Go back to Seattle, be the RB1 there, and go put up some monster numbers. So that is it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Want to let you know that Matt and Ryan will be back tomorrow. They're going to do the Browns and Ravens team previews from 2021. What an odd year for both of those teams. We'll be back later this week, Kate, to preview some more teams or review some more teams, get ready for championship weekend, and continue to help you build the absolute best dynasty team going forward. Follow Kate at FF Ball Blast. I'm at Marcus _Mosher. You can follow the show at Locked On Dynasty, and we'll see you guys next time.